All right, now I've been doing some more cleaning on this using the cleanup tool that I mentioned before. This one with the shovel on it, and you notice when you do this kind of thing, you accumulate a lot of this. Use the rib to keep this clean. If you're not careful with that, that stuff will get embedded in the bottom of your box and mess it all up. All right, the next tool that I'm using is another Kemper tool. I think they call this a rub out tool. In the painting art world, this is used for different things. They call it the incredible nib. Don't pay $7 for these when you can pay a lot less from a pottery supply as a Kemper tool. So be warned about that. These last forever. It's hard rubber on this end, kind of like a hard rubber, almost like an eraser. And this has sort of a beveled wedge thing. It's also useful. You use both ends of this. Keep it clean, otherwise the rubber tends to harden up. Enough said about that. But what I want to show you is how this is really good for getting these corners. When you put the ends on your extrusion that creates the box, you have squeeze out and such inside here, and this tool is ideal for cleaning this up. I know you can't quite see it, but I'm going to show you the finished product. Over the years, my wife and I have teamed up on this sort of process. While I do some of the steps, she does other parts, and this is the one that she sits across from me while we talk and what have you, and this has sort of become one of her jobs that she's glad to do for the sake of the process. You keep working this tool, and if it gets a little bit crumbly in there, then you can take a brush or a damp paintbrush or anything that helps remove some of the material. But the idea is to get a nice matched corner in there. The better that looks, the more appealing it is to somebody who might be considering buying your product. Give it a nice finish. Glaze on the insides can help that, but why not get it well finished to begin with, so you don't have to make apologies for any of that sort of stuff. You get a practiced hand at that sort of thing, and you don't have to work forever and a day on it. I remind you that you keep this outside edge rough. We're going to need that in a second, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So you clean these up. I'll show you some finished products, but that kind of gives you the very rough idea of how this pair of tools is used to get to this stage. So again, I'm going to stop the tape. I'm going to get set up, and I'll be right back. Okay, I got the bottom cleaned up nicely, and I got the top cleaned up nicely too. I did exactly the same process of using those Kemper tools to clean up the interior of both. And they're pretty good. Later on, when this is bone dry, I'll be able to go in with a sponge and a toothbrush or whatever paintbrush and even remove more of the little imperfections to make it even better. But you know, I got the lion's share of it done, and I was hurrying because of the demonstration. But what I want to show you now is how I finished the outside edge. One of the keys to this particular product for me has always been that I could get the top and bottom to fit very tightly. I'm careful not to cut the lid too close to the top. That is to say, this line, I try to keep it somewhat low. This is even a little bit, this is even a little bit high for the sake of making a lid that doesn't, as I call it, doesn't potato chip. That is, if it's too thin, too close to the top, there's a tendency for this piece, the top, to warp and twist up as it dries. So if you're going to try this technique, making something like this, make your cut lower so that the top has more mass. It's more inclined to fit better and dry better. So this one is a little bit risky the way I've done it. Nevertheless, we're going to continue. You fit the top and bottom together like this, and you can see the line where I cut, just like I did before. But now I'm going to push this shut, and this is where leaving some clay on the outside edge of the cut comes into play. This box looks good if that edge is very tight together. I use the half rib and work it to, in essence, reclose that seam. I'll do it on this edge and show it to you. You can see better on camera, I think, if I work it like this. I'm pushing down across the cut, somewhat perpendicular to the cut line, like this. I can push this together. I'm holding it with my hand and pushing these together, and you can see that the cut line becomes much less obvious. I do that on all four sides. Now, it might seem like I'm sealing the box back up, but believe me, that line is there and it's gonna open well. The last thing I do is take a damp sponge and I can seal this shut. It'll open, trust me. But for now, what I've done is I've made that line, that cut line, much less obvious, just to prove to you that it hasn't been lost or sealed back up. There you have it. Okay, that's it for this stage. So now what I have is I have a top and bottom that are firmly seatable like that, and I'm ready to do some of the last finishes. So another segment's coming up.